Hello, you chaps. Been a few weeks. I have been off the rails in, you know, but things have turned around a bit. Internet's working properly, and um, excuse me. I'm feeling more on top of my game than I was. So I've come back for another personal vlog, like just talky chatty. I didn't have a reading earlier this week because, like I said, the internet was being all sorts of dicky, so I wasn't able to record or upload. Uh, I do, however, try to post on Facebook at least, even if I can't get a um, even if I can't get a video recording up, I at least try to have the Facebook typed out reading. Um, oh, excuse me. Okay. Anyway, as you can see, if you have watched more than one of my videos, um, you'll see there's been a slight perspective shift in the camera because I've finally gotten rid of the box wall that was here because I decided to stop living in limbo. So I unpacked a whole bunch of stuff and I have other stuff on the wall over here, and it's just it's so much better. It's so much more comfortable. Loki, my cat, he's not as into it because he liked hiding in the boxes, but he's got other hidey holes. I think he'll survive. Oh, Jesus. Anyway, so, um, where have I been? So back in the beginning of the month, I believe it was, what was it? Let's look at the calendar. It is, yeah, May 6th. We had our first festival event of the year, vending event for Mystic Mothership. We were down in Waynesboro, and I was not impressed with the people who set up the event. Um, they kind of, I don't know, I didn't feel like they had adequate porta potties. I mean, I only found the one set and I didn't know where the rest were. Luckily, we were allowed to use the event coordinator's building, their public bathroom, or their employee bathroom. Luckily, we were allowed to use that, and that was cool. It was cleaner anyway. Um, and even besides that, I was not impressed with their setups system because none of the volunteers really seemed to know who was supposed to be where. Like, they didn't really have the paper sheet on them. Um, they didn't seem to know where landmarks were in their own town, which is understandable, but also like not helpful when you're trying to find your spot at an event. And what really pissed me off in the end was that they had spot numbers labeled, but it was on masking tape on the curb of the street. So, when you're driving in a car looking for the spot where you can stop and unload, how are you supposed to see the masking tape on the curb from the car? Like, how are you supposed to be able to read that? Like, obviously, I have glasses, I'm nearsighted, but even if I wasn't, how am I supposed to see that? I ended up getting out of the car because I had someone else driving me. I ended up getting out of the car and going down the block reading the masking tape. And I understand that when you're working with a borough, or a street, or not a street, a city organization, or whatever you want to call it, you don't want to leave permanent marks on the public street. This was the main street of their town. But I just can't help but think that you could have used sidewalk chalk. Because, it's going to come off in the first rain. And even if it doesn't, you can hose it down. It's or you can just go with a broom and sweep at it a little. It's sidewalk chalk, and then you can see that from your car. You write big letters. I don't know. I just maybe that's my own personal sin in that when I see somebody doing something that I think is incompetent, I automatically think of ways that I would do it better, and that's my own personal sin. So, maybe I shouldn't be so hard on them, but at the same time, masking tape on the curbs, I don't know. It was just very frustrating finding our spot to get set up, and then another person several spots down evidently only they didn't have their allocated 10 feet. They only had like 6 feet, so we all had to shuffle down some, and it was a mess getting set up. And when you're doing that on a timer, because the event is from this amount of time to this hour to this hour. In that case it was 10 to 4, so we had to be set up and ready to go by 9:45. And when you're trying to set up on a timer, having trouble finding your space to begin with really just makes the whole event much more stressful than it needs to be, and frustrating. And like I said, we went up and down the street like 3 times just trying to find our space, and we talked to 3 different coordinators and volunteers to try to help us find our spot. And we ended up getting more help from other vendors. So I guess the moral of the story here is, if the event doesn't seem to have competent assistance or setup people, you can always talk to another vendor, because they're usually very helpful and know what they're doing. Most of the time, it's not their first rodeo. They've been there before. Or even if not at that specific event, they've been to an event before. Um, I don't know. Maybe I'm spoiled from other events where it's just been, very well set up and prepared. I don't know. Maybe I'm spoiled. Maybe I'm critical. I don't know. I just had to get that off my chest. Not that I wasn't bitching the whole time we were setting up anyway. Oh, what can I say? I'm a Virgo. Virgos by nature are critical and mean. uh, but the event itself was okay. It turns out it was a pretty Christian town we were in, and like that's fine, but it's not good for our business, because we're trying to sell charms and witchcraft and tarot readings, and people are walking past or through our tent looking like they need pearls to clutch on their way through. And it's just like, we're not gonna hurt you, man. Walking through our tent is not going to send you straight to hell like it's fucking Monopoly and you're getting a go to jail card. But that's that kind of Christian person. Is they I guess they overthink it, or they believe stereotypes, or they don't understand, so they freak out. And that's their deal. Um, but we had fun. We were outside of a diner with a really funny name that I loved. Um, and I ended up getting food there, and it was really good. They had boardwalk fries, which was exciting because I like thick cut fries. I don't like those skinny minis. Like, everybody's always on about, oh, McDonald's fries, and I'm like, they suck. McDonald's fries suck. There's barely any fry. And they're honestly just not that good. McDonald's just isn't very good. It really isn't. We all ate it because it's cheap, and now it's not even cheap, so like, what's the point in going to McDonald's anymore? Anyway, one of the big saving graces of that trip, we made back our space. We made a decent profit, but definitely not enough to work with those event coordinators again. We're not going back that way. We usually have more success up north, like further north, Berks County, definitely. The only problem with coming up to Berks County is it's like at least an hour and a half drive, and I think that's worth it, but I my mom and one of my sisters usually comes with to do events with me, and they get finicky about drives. I think my sister's more willing to do it than my mom, but my mom just is, she's my mom. Anyway, but one of the big saving graces of the whole trip is for some reason our neighboring booth had a baby squirrel with them. Um, Apparently the squirrel had I don't know the whole history. I just heard them saying that they had tried to release it and it kept coming back to them. Um, so they had it with them for whatever reason. But it came over into our booth and she came over to, fetch it back. And I just remember looking over because it went under my mom's terror table. And my sister, she's not really into rodents. She doesn't like their pity paws, as she calls them. The little skittery, pittering. I love rodents. Um, I love cats more. So obviously I can't have both. But I love rodents. I love ferrets, rats, mice. I think they're adorable. Um, so the lady came over to fetch out her squirrel, and I had seen it on the ground, and I was like, "Oh my God, I don't usually get to see squirrels this close." And she says like, "Oh, you want to hold it?" And I got to hold a baby squirrel, and it was just like legitimately, I got to check that off my bucket list because I've always wanted to pet a squirrel. And I know that seems, lame and weird, but like they always looked so soft and fluffy, and I wanted to pet their tail. And I finally got to, and it was just as soft as I could have ever imagined. And I didn't think a baby, I didn't think a squirrel would actually end up being that soft because I figured that a wild animal would have, a slightly wiry edge to its fur just because that's what happens to animals. They have this kind of edge to them. But it was so soft and it was so cute and it held my hand and it was like just barely bigger than my palm. And it was adorable and it gave me a little chomp. It didn't break the skin or anything. It was just like just a little nip. And um I had posted about that on Facebook because I was just so excited that I got to hold a squirrel. And then like half a minute later I was just like, oh shit, maybe I should have been concerned about rabies. But yeah, I haven't shown any kind of symptoms or anything, so squirrel's fine. I'm fine. But but it was just one of those I had to come back to my own post and comment like, I don't have rabies. Everything's fine. Which is funny because I was probably the only person who thought of that, but it is what it is. But I'm still so stoked I got to hold a squirrel. Um, that was back on the 6th. The other past couple of weekends have just kind of been, uh, kind of the usual, sticking around home, getting a little stir crazy. Like I had my first taste of, I'm kind of a homebody. I like to stay home, but I want to do more events just because I'm dissatisfied with how we did in Waynesboro. Like, I want to go and do better and do more readings and, sell more of our crafts and make more money. I'm just kind of annoyed that we started off our season at mediocrity. And I'm just not into that. Like, I expect better of myself. But like I said, that just wasn't a good area for us. It wasn't like it was a good event. There was lots of street traffic and everything, but it was just like I said. Sometimes it's the area we hit or miss. If we could afford to, I would love to keep doing mediocre events like that, just for the people that we do meet who love to see us and get excited and need to see witches in public because you never know when you're going to run into somebody who has similar interests or who is in that kind of environment, and they need the affirmation of seeing other people like them, you know? Like when you go to a pride event and you see other people who are queer and you're like, "Oh my God, there's more people like me," and it's dreadfully exciting and affirmations, Um validating and stuff like that. So by taking our witchcraft on the road like that, we're spreading that to other, pagans and Wiccans and witches who might not be able to see that. And for us, I like to believe that we'd be more positive influence than, random crap you can read on the internet or what you learn from people who are misinformed. For example, like I said, the pearl clutching going through the tent, we're not going to send you to hell. And never, ever, 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 ever use a Ouija board. That's just trouble. It's just because what the Ouija board is all about is it's like a door. And the door obviously is letting in whatever's on the other side, but you have to consider what's lurking on the other side is the shit that was removed. Words. I'm sorry. I feel very passionate about. I have a lot of emotions about Ouija boards, and when I get particularly excited, I get very tongue-tied, especially because I like to use bigger words or more advanced words when their meaning is like the exact definition that I want to use. Like, for example, I would use, vexed or irritated instead of angry, depending on my mood. But anyway, so the shit that's just kind of waiting around on the other side that hasn't moved on, you have to consider why hasn't it moved on? Usually if something hasn't moved on, it's not for a good reason. It's that they're angry, they have ulterior motives, they're sad, they just, or, they're people who just want to watch the world burn. Or entities, I guess I should say. Um, so if you're using a Ouija board, that's what you're letting in. You're letting in the crap that doesn't move on because of negative purposes. And they want to come, and specifically, it's the ones that want to come back onto this plane. And you have to consider why do they want back? And it's like I said, it's never a good thing. And you might be sitting there going, "Oh, but there's always exceptions to every rule." Don't even play with that. Don't even play with that exception. It's not worth it. It's not worth even trying. It's not a good idea, it's not safe, and it's not smart. I will say it bluntly, it is a dumb thing to do. So, yeah, like I said, because I feel so passionately about that sort of thing, we try to practice witchcraft in ways that aren't going to hurt other people. So, by traveling around and, uh, making ourselves available to more novice witches, we try to be more educational in that aspect. Um, because, like I said, there's a world of misinformation to be had, and because we try to practice being good, and my mom calls us, light or white witches. I don't really care for that term, just because honestly, it sounds a little racist when you. I mean, obviously, we are white witches. I'm very Caucasian, but but I don't feel right saying white magic, black magic, and saying what's good or bad. Oh, excuse me. If anything, I'll just say good or bad, or advisable, inadvisable. It's not worth putting brightness scale on it. Especially because I love the color black. It's a nice color. It's like, why equate it to evil? It's a lovely color. It's the color of good soil, you know? I'm just being weird. I don't know. That's just personal preference. Like I said, my mom calls us white witches. Uh, it is what it is. Either way, uh, I have rambled on for a full 20 minutes, and I should probably wrap this up. Um, I guess I pretty much said what I wanted to say. I don't know if I kind of got rambly and confused towards the end. Um, Hopefully it made sense. If you have any questions, let me know, or if I was confusing, please tell me. I'm a little concerned. I don't get much feedback, but don't think I didn't see you. I do have a subscriber. And that's very exciting to me. I didn't think I would get any. I unfortunately I was not able to see your name anywhere. I was looking all over my analytics sheets, going, "Who is it? Who is it? Who's my subscriber?" So I don't know your username or anything, but I just want you to know that I appreciate you a lot. And if you do watch this, I just I do really appreciate it, and I hope you keep watching. Um, and I hope I'm not too annoying yet. Oh, either way, I hope y'all have a good weekend. And I will be hopefully able to post the weekly reading on Monday again. So, thank you for watching. Bye bye.